long time no post. I'm not gonna even begin to explain why I haven't posted. Long story short, just a lot of things kept happening back to back to back to back. And I have so many different things I wanna talk about. And I wasn't sure where to begin because there's just like so many different topics I wanna cover. And as of right now, what has been on my mind the most is I want to share like the story of like how I survived the beauty standards in the SW industry. And I feel like this is like a really important topic because in recent years, SW has become more normalized and less taboo. And what comes along with that is beauty standards and the steps it takes to achieve those standards have also become immensely normalized. And at the end of the day, it's truly not normal. It is not normal to feel that you need to tweak all these things about yourself and that's the only way that you can make money or the only way you can get attention or the only way that you can feel better about yourself. And I'm somebody who, for a while, I did fall victim into like the 2019 or so like filler era. I recently dissolved all of my lip filler. It took like 2 years, like 2 different times that I went, but it's pretty much all gone. I stopped getting Botox. This doesn't mean that I won't get these things in the future, but I'm definitely not going to get them to the extreme that I had before. And I'll include some pictures in here, like when I go through and edit, to show the before and after. Like my lips were big. I had my cheeks done like 2 times. It looked good from the side, like it always looked like that, like it kind of gave it that nice little shape. But then from underneath, and I'll include that picture, I was looking like Clark Kent, and I already have a pretty structured jawline and face. I did not need to have more volume in the upper top of it. So at the end of the day, it was really hard when I first started dancing to not compare myself to the girls that had everything done. And at the time, to me, it looked so good because it was like, oh my gosh, you look like an Instagram picture in real life. And at the time, I believe my body dysmorphia was so like peaked at that time. I thought a lot of these girls looked good and some of them did, but we can all agree that we've probably seen people where it's just like, whoa, why did you do that? Like, why do you keep doing that? And I ended up being one of those people when it came to lip filler, right? So essentially, when I first started dancing, I remember I felt tempted to get my breasts done because that was kind of, and I feel like it still is, it's like usually the first thing girls will do is get the breasts done. And at first I'm like, yeah, you know, the bigger, the better. But at the end of the day, a lot of fake breasts don't look that good. I'm not saying that it's everybody. I'm not saying that all of them don't look good. I'm not saying it's not valid to want to get your breasts done because some people, you know, their breasts naturally might be, like one girl I saw, she had really, really uneven breasts. One of them was really, really huge and low, and the other one was up higher. Like in cases like that, it's very understandable. Thankfully with me, I like my breasts, but it was difficult when I'm comparing my natural ones to somebody who, you know, they're like perfectly round, they're up there, they're big, etc. I even had a girl, which I regret doing, but she asked if she could take a picture of my breasts so that she could use them as an example to get her breasts done. And then that same girl had the nerve to like insult me one day after she had my breasts done, or had her breasts done the same way that mine looked, except obviously they were a little bit more rounder and bigger. She had the nerve to say that like I wasn't like one of the prettier girls at the club. And I'm like, you literally paid to look like me. And now that you have like a part of me, it literally looked like somebody copied and pasted my breast on her body. I'm like, now you're being cocky. But whatever makes you feel good, whatever. I know insecurity is very loud. That was like the first time that I was like fighting the urge to get my breasts done, because like I said, it's just really easy to compare. And I would also see like girls on stage, right? They would go and they would have giant breasts done. And this one girl in particular I'm thinking of, it was like when BBLs like first started. Like now we're moving from talking about breasts to moving to BBLs. So she had giant breasts, okay, like huge, giant BBL. And I remember it confused me, because you always see men talking about, oh, we like natural girls, we like this and this and this, whatever, which is true in the real world. But you have to realize when you are working in a club with exotic dancers, that's not the real world. And the kind of guys who go there, and they go there frequently, like they love it. It's like the same people who are obsessed with going to like Hooters and Twin Peaks. Like those men, like those are the men that are like chronically like online and like love sexy women and everything like that. Like those aren't like your normal average guys, right? But at the same time, these are the same men who will always be like, oh, natural is better or whatever. We don't like they'll be online and say like, we don't like girls with all the makeup and the this and that. But then their whole following list is just exactly that, right? So this woman, and bless her heart, I'm a controversial person. I can't even say it. I'm a controversial person. I can't say it. People love me or hate me, and there's nothing I can do about it, right? It didn't look good. But you want to know what? As soon as she went on stage, guess who made tons and tons of money on stage? And it didn't look good. And some of the people I would sit with, they would say like it didn't look good, but like it was just because they were so big, and at the end of the day, people are there to be entertained. They loved it, you know? And it made me sad to feel that that's what she needed to have. I can't imagine what it's like having them now, especially because body trends always change. And now that look is going out of style. But I remember thinking, looking at her BBL, because also I worked in Michigan, like BBLs, I don't know how it is now, I haven't lived there in a few years, but they weren't very common. You know what I mean? Like that's what everybody wanted to come to Miami and stuff for. And that's when I realized like, oh, that's why a lot of the guys from Michigan love going to Florida. And that's why everybody in Florida has big butts, because everybody has BBLs. I didn't know that. I just thought, like, which I know some of it's genetic, but you know what I mean. But I remember on Instagram, it was becoming really popular. Like you would see girls who were not that conventionally attractive, but they would get a BBL and they would just like blow up with internet fame. And I'm sitting there, I'm like 5'8", I'm tall and like skinny, lanky, right? And I'm just like, wow, I feel like if I just got giant breasts and like a giant BBL or implants, which booty implants do not look good. I'm sorry, they don't look good. They don't look good. I almost felt like I was not gonna make money or ever be able to like get out of the industry unless like I started to make myself look like a product for that industry. And I'm very grateful that I never did the body modifications. And I'm very grateful that I like my natural body. I used to not. I used to always feel like I was too skinny. When I was like a little bit like thicker for a little bit, like I remember, like, you know, if you're a dancer, if they don't let you go to night shift, it's because like you're not good looking enough to work night shift, so they force you to stay on day shift. And I remember when that happened to me, I was like, oh my gosh, like you can't win, you know? And every club is different, and every club has their set beauty standards. What kind of like dancers are there? If it's more VIP room based, is it more pole dancing base, or is it more like, you know, unless you have regulars, like good luck talking to anybody, you know what I mean? So now that it's 2024, almost 2025, I am just really glad that I didn't do those things. And I guess my message that I would like to put out there for women or young girls who are considering doing these things, when, like, if you're someone who, like, really doesn't need to, like, you really don't need a BBL. Like, you don't have a Hank Hill booty. You don't have uneven breasts. Or I know sometimes after women give birth, like, you can lose a lot of volume. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're someone who really doesn't need to tweak anything, and the things that you would like to improve are things that could be done with, like, changing your lifestyle habits, working out, or anything like that, I highly advise that you just do that, because it's so expensive to have to pay to look a certain way. And just, if you don't need to, don't. Because I remember I've had dreams about getting my breasts done when I was thinking about it. Because I remember I was like, I want gummy bear implants. Like, I always felt like if I just had giant mommy milkers, like, I would just conquer the floorboards and the stage, right? And I remember I would have these dreams. I had 2 of them where they're like, okay, what kind of implants do you want? And then they, like, take the little anesthetic mask, and as the doctor's, like, placing it over my mouth, in my head, I'm like, no, wait, I actually, like, really like, no. And then I would wake up panicking and, like, gasping, because I thought I was, like, put under, like, you know, and everything. And then 2, the more I got into yoga and Pilates, like, certain yoga poses and stuff that I do, I'm like, okay, if I would have gotten those, like, giant breasts that I originally wanted, because I wanted, like, double D, like, huge. And, like, if you ever see, like, how I'm built, like, you see, like, that would be really big for me. I wouldn't be able to do that. And, like, yoga is something that I have grown to really love and appreciate. And I think there's just also a piece that comes with loving your body as it comes. And I think it's like a big FU to the industry that feeds off of our insecurities. I know for my generation, like older millennials and such, we grew up in the early 2000s, and that was a brutal time. Like, I'm talking about the Tyra Banks show. What else was going on? Like, Lindsay Lohan, Paris Hilton, Nicole Richie, just absolutely getting slaughtered in the media for being too big or too skinny. Like, all these things, like, we saw it all, and like so that's how we were influenced about our body image before social media, because we just had paper media, and that was still just as bad. And my heart goes out for the younger generation, because now it's like, okay, if you didn't want the magazine, or your parents didn't let you buy the magazine, you didn't really see it unless it was on TV, and even then, like, certain channels and such could be restricted. But now it's just everywhere on your phone. It's on TVs. It's on billboards. We hear about Ozempic and, like, all the other things I can't think of right now that pretty much do, like, the same thing. And there's no escaping it. And it's just, the sooner that you can go ahead and just love and appreciate your body the best to your ability. It doesn't mean it's easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to struggle sometimes, especially you have to keep in mind our body fluctuates along with our cycles. So you're always going to have, like, a little time period, or maybe, like, you're a little bit more bloated, or your depression, like, increases and such like that. You're more fatigued, so you don't really feel like working out. You don't need to beat yourself up for feeling that way. It's very normal, and that's something, like, I only probably learned within, like, the past 2 years. I wasn't raised to be taught about, like, how much our hormones and everything affect us, and, like, that's why sometimes you feel a little bit more like this, and that's why you look a little bit more like that. And it's just, I promise, like, it's kind of like a craving. When you have, like, a really, like, big craving for something, you're trying to not eat or quit, like, smoking or, like, eating sweets, whatever it is. And then after, like, the craving passes, and you're like, okay, you know what, like, I'm glad I didn't pick up that cigarette. I'm glad I didn't pick up that drink. I feel so much better knowing that I didn't do that to myself. And I'm proud of myself for having discipline. It's the same thing when it comes to fighting the temptation, especially when it comes to beauty trends, not caving in in doing that, because it's a big deal. Once you have implants in your body, or you put yourself through these severe surgeries, or whatever the case is, for the most part, as far as like my understanding goes, there's really no going back from it. You could take them out and such like that, but you never know. And as far as people who have gotten stuff done or who still want to, like, that's totally fine. Like, I'm not shaming it. You just don't need to do extremes like what we're seeing. And like, that's kind of like my biggest like problem I have with the promotion of getting work done, is because it's like we're always thinking bigger is better, and it's not. Like, a lot of the issues we have can be resolved with lifestyle changes and enhancements and discipline, gentle discipline with yourself. You don't need to restrict yourself and put yourself down on days you cave or days you don't feel like going to the gym, whatever the case may be. But just take it from me as somebody who, since right before I turned 21, I danced on and off. I've been surrounded by like all these different temptations of things that I felt I needed or wanted to get done in order to get really easy like internet fame, you know, like when you're younger and you're like, oh yeah, like you saw Kylie Jenner and stuff and other people like what getting a BBL and like giant boobs did for them, and you're like, okay, like maybe if I just did that. It's like at the end of the day, it's like that, like what you want. Like, you need to think of these things. For some people, yes, nothing wrong with that. But for some people, I think it's just really easy to give into the temptation, especially if you have a history of body dysmorphia or an ED. And I think that's maybe who like my message is going to resonate with the most, are people, male, female, whatever you identify as. I don't get into all that. But it's just, if you have a history of that, like, you really, really need to like consider how you're gonna feel before and after these decisions. Because at the end of the day, I'm glad I didn't cave. It doesn't mean like, you know, I'll probably get some little smile line filler, maybe a little Botox, maybe like a lip flip. Like, I'm not saying like don't do things and don't get things done. Don't hate on it. Do what makes you feel good and pretty. But don't revolve your life around it, and don't revolve your confidence around it. Like, I used to not be able to feel confident. Like, here we go, pause. Okay, I became very dependent on my lip filler, my cheek filler, my Botox, right? I got very used to having a certain face and a certain look. That stuff starts to like decrease over time and dwindle. And I remember one day I looked in the mirror and I'm like, oh, my eyebrows aren't like this anymore. Oh, my lips, I would do this thing where I would take my finger and I would put my, like, well, I have a long nail right now, but I would take my finger, and if my upper lip, like if my lips didn't cover this like upper segment of my finger, I'm like, oh my gosh, my lips are shrinking. I need to get these done now. Even if I didn't really have the money to do it, like I would prioritize like keeping up with the filler and the Botox over other things that really matter to my life, especially getting out of a very unhealthy relationship. And that's like when it starts to get unhealthy, because it's like you're distracting yourself from other aspects of your life that really need your attention right now and would actually make you feel happier and more confident if you attend to those things, rather than worry about, you know, having to have a face to keep up that isn't truly yours. And that was my personal experience. Like, I remember I didn't like the feeling of starting to feel uncomfortable with my natural face. I actually feel really like emotional saying that, because I remember how it felt looking in the mirror, and just my mind and my confidence and my heart like tanked in a way I never felt before. Because just all of a sudden one day, just those things were starting to go away, and that's when I never got my cheeks done again. I still kept up with my lip filler. My Botox lasted for a long time. My cheek filler like lasted for a little bit, but it's dissolved. It's been like 4 years now. But that's the part about getting like work done that you need to remember. It's just, you need to think like your face isn't gonna look like your face. Your body isn't gonna look like your body. And when it starts to not look a certain way, it could be extremely triggering. So hopefully my message came across okay. It might be a little bit brutal in some points, but we need tough love. Like, we can't be sitting here and pacifying everything, especially when there's vulnerable people out there. And I want to again clarify, like, if you are somebody who does get stuff done, there's nothing wrong with it at all. My message is for those who essentially felt how I felt and have felt tempted that they needed to do those things in order to feel pretty or to feel attractive, because it is something where over time, the more you take care of yourself, your mental health, and everything like that, you may end up being like, you know what, okay, I'm glad I didn't do that. And then if it's something that still lingers with you, like, let's say like a few years down the road, okay, do it. Because that's what I do in shopping. I'm like, if I'm not gonna buy it, if I think that I'm gonna leave the store and not think about it. But if I'm looking at this shirt or this necklace and I'm like shopping around still and I just keep really thinking about it, I'm like, I don't know, I really want it. 'Cause I shop at Play-Doh, so sometimes the things I see, it's really only gonna be there if I get it right then and there, right? But that'll be the time when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do it. So if like you feel like you really, really wanna get that thing done, whatever it is, and it's really like lingering on your mind even after you gave it some time, do it. Just make sure that whatever decision you make at the end of the day, it's out of love for yourself and not out of hatred for yourself. Because if you do something and it's because you're hating yourself, it can get really messy from there. So I hope you feel love from this video, and I hope I don't come across as like shaming people, because that's not my intention. And I know intention at the end of the day, it's like, okay, you may have not intended that, but you should still be aware. I am somebody with like just a very like upfront thought process, and you know, if people didn't sugarcoat things with me, I probably wouldn't have blown up my lips the way that I had and felt dependent on fillers and stuff the way that I had. So yeah, I'm gonna go rinse this off now, and I'll see you later. Bye.